And juggling family, it's not easy. House of the Dragon, episode 3. Show's still good, which is nice. There's still I think a really good balance of, the horrors of war in this world while also never losing sight of the political movements, of the sense that everyone's kind of jockeying for position, and some of the people in seats of power really would rather not be there if they could help it. And it's still really well balanced. I one of the things I like about this, especially at this particular point, is it doesn't feel like there's anybody who's in real control of what's going on. Because, like, you go back to when Game of Thrones started, there were certain characters who you're like, I'm not sure if you're completely in control, but you definitely know a lot more about what's going on than most of the people here. That's characters like Littlefinger, Varys, Tyrion, possibly. But here, I get the sense that, like, everyone's playing the game. I don't think they all think that they're playing the same game. I think some are playing, a very forceful, make moves for power. Some are playing a much quieter, oh, well, we'll just align ourselves with these people. And they're not all approaching it the same way. And I don't think a lot of them appreciate that these ways are going to clash. Some of them might, but I kind of like a certain, like, as much as this world was ever going to have a certain sense of innocence to it. Like, it's still a messed up world where terrible stuff happens. Lots of people die in horrific ways. But, like, I really think some of the people involved, like, they know there's political games going on. I don't think they realize how bad it's going to get and how deep some of this stuff is going to run. The king might, but, like, he like wants desperately for it not to be the case. So that's kind of hurting his ability to rule a bit, because he clearly does not want this job. But the way it is handling all these various elements is pretty good. The time jumps, this is honestly probably what I'm going to spend the longest time talking about. The time jumps are working both for and against the narrative. It's working for it in the sense that it is able to jump to really significant individual moments that require years worth of time, such as, for example, the second name day of the king's first son with another child on the way. Like, obviously, that requires time to happen. So things like that benefit from the time jump because that situation creates additional tension or more pressure on with the king and the princess. I'm not going to bother trying to remember most of these names. You need to accept that. So, their relationship and the way that works, the way that it is hindering the narrative is that, okay, so I feel like Overly Sarcastic Productions explain this best in one of their trope talks, but there's a difference between plot time and downtime. And as a rule, much less stuff is allowed to happen in downtime, at least nothing that you can't quickly summarize to get the audience up to speed. And some things that benefit from that are things like the birth and the starting to get older of these children of the king. Where that becomes a problem is realizing that this war with the Crab King, or whatever he was being called, has been going on for like close to 3 years or something like that. Or to see that the relationship is still so strained between the princess and the king's, wife, the queen, and, because they used to be friends, and you're left thinking, so wait, have they just never tried to reconcile for 3 years? Have they just been completely passive aggressive to each other in the exact same way this whole time? Has none of this evolved? And that's where time jumps can hurt a narrative. Now, there are certainly possible explanations for this. There are ways to explain why this campaign against these pirates effectively takes 3 years. There are ways to explain that, maybe these two actually tried to mend their relationship, but then it didn't work, or something else happened and put them back at square one. Or maybe they just have been flatly avoiding each other, maybe initially just by the necessity of their roles, and then maybe that just became a distance that they never bothered bridging. There are ways to explain that. The problem is, when you do a time jump, you forego the explanation, and it just feels like some stuff moved forward and a bunch of stuff went into stasis. for 2 to 3 years, which just leaves you with a weird feeling of how much does or doesn't change with each time jump. And again, that's not really a failing or a fault of this show. It's kind of an inherent problem with time jumps. Time jumps are a real tricky thing to balance because one of two things tends to happen. Either so much changes that you are left having to backfill so much stuff that like you didn't really save yourself that much time because you're having to explain all this stuff anyways. Because you have to explain why things went seemingly much further than you would have thought they would have gone in whatever that length of time is. Or much more common is what we're seeing here, where not everything, but a whole bunch of stuff basically just goes on hold and doesn't appear to change or evolve for better or for worse for all of the stretch of time that we've jumped. And like effectively, from a narrative standpoint, there is no difference in this war going on for 3 years and they're losing, and this war going on for a few months and they just poured so many resources in it and got hit so hard at the beginning that they are in the same position. Narratively, there's no difference between that. So this is what tends to happen a lot. You just end up with a bunch of stories going into stasis, and then it feels like, well, why did we need a time jump? Now, again, here, I know why there's a time jump. It did impact a number of very specific things that needed to move forward. But, you know, there's other stuff like, well, like the King's hand. Like, I gotta look at his fingers in some shots and like, okay, well, he's definitely not gotten better. But I'm also wondering, like, 3 years on, shouldn't that have progressed further than it has? Again, it's just kind of the nature of time jumps. And I know there's more coming. And I have a feeling that's going to be not something that breaks the show for me, but I do feel that is ultimately going to be something that makes certain elements of it not flow as well as they might have for me, as kind of was exemplified in this episode. I think a bit more than like the 6-month time jump or whatever it was for from the first episode to the second. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Other than that, performances are still good. Show still looks good. I will say those archers that the pirates were using, they suck. Those are terrible archers. Cause like, here's the thing. If Damon had like done his charge and it was just the guys on the ground, in which case like they're facing someone who they know is incredibly strong, they're probably intimidating. Like I could get him holding his own for a while on the ground. But the fact that he wasn't serpentining in any way, he was just straight dashing. Did none of these archers know how to lead the target? Because they really should have been able to take him down way before he got anywhere close to that cave. So the archers are bad at their job, and it doesn't matter now. They've all been roasted by a dragon. So I suppose it doesn't matter. But yeah, that bothered me a little bit. It would have been one thing if like it had been established that his armor, you know, could withstand the arrows, but it's demonstrably not the case. But at the same time, I'm just left there going like, you know, if he would just weave a little, he's just going straight. All you got to do is lead the target, and none of you are hitting him. That's yeah. So as someone who does archery when I get the opportunity, that bothered me a little bit. But again, that's a nitpicky thing. For the most part, the action scene was cool. It was well done, decently handled. Oh God, we got our first Lannister. What a douche. And I'm glad basically called out for being such as well. And it's interesting, again, there's a lot of emphasis on the struggle between what is good for the realm or what is good for your family's political position and what do you want. And those things are often never going to perfectly align, but with this king especially, they really don't align. And you can tell how much that weighs on him. And I think that's brought across well in his interactions and with the performance and like just how much he so does not want to hear about official business. Every time somebody comes up to him to talk about official business, oh, he hates it. He hates it so much. And then you've got all these other characters, you know, they want what he has, and he clearly doesn't want it. But at the same time, like, I'm not going to say he's a great king, but he's probably better for the realm as a whole than a lot of the other people who would like to be there instead of him. Or at least that's still the impression I'm getting, which is good because it gives you that tension like, well, there's definitely no way he's going to be able to hold on to this. If nothing else, dude won't live forever. But even beyond that, it's so clear he doesn't want to be there. There's going to be a mess when he's gone. And they're setting that up well. Without actually really, they bring up the issues of succession between the new, now 2 years old, the firstborn son and his daughter. And, that's certainly being addressed, but like, there's a lot that's going to go off once he dies. And I also like that, like, he talks about, you don't get to do what you want. You have to do what's best for the kingdom. And his daughter rightly calls him out on that and says, if that was true, then you wouldn't have married your current wife. You would have married that guy's daughter from a couple episodes back. And he's like, nope, okay, you got me. Which is kind of an acknowledgement that, like, there is a principle of he has to sacrifice a lot to do what's best for the kingdom, but, like, bend it where you can. That's kind of the best that you can hope for. And I feel like that's a nice, again, balance. A sense of duty while still getting what you can of what you want. Even if you don't get to have much of it. Or you don't get to have it for long. Or under the circumstances you would like. So, yeah, the show is still balanced very well. And that's kind of the big selling point for me right now. That its elements, its characters, its intrigue, its war, all of it is balanced nicely and is holding together pretty decently. So I think I'll wrap it out there. Still having fun with this one. I enjoyed this. What did you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Don't know why I decided to roll the R on that, but like, share, subscribe are also super helpful. Patreon's what pays the bills around here. I definitely appreciate that, but don't worry too much about it. We take a relaxed attitude around here so you can come on back next time you need a break. Time to give my thanks to my highest supporting patrons. That would include Robin Moore, Zubin Lutfullah, Tarak, the thing that goes doink in the anime, Oliver B., Melinda Walters, Emu Delkey, Theotha Boyd, Becky Sparks, Fernabi Likes the Poodle, Zach, Idolin, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Casperl, Adam RDL Taylor, Shane Ross, Shayla Gourlay, Brendan LaRose, and TT. If you want your name said while these guys try and distract me, consider looking at the rewards of my Patreon.